may be attending, what your understanding of the MSOL program is in terms of the outcomes and what you have learned and how it has influenced your perception of what organizational leadership is and how you're applying it in the workplace. And it gives you an opportunity to, in essence, defend or define what organizational leadership means to you. That is the one of the significant outcomes of our program is to create an opportunity for people to develop their own model of organizational leadership based on the exposure to many, many concepts related to organizational leadership. And this ILP is the vehicle for synthesizing and bringing this together and making sense of it. Now, what are the various parts of this integrated leadership project? I'm going to quickly give you an overview of what these parts are. Now, they are clearly delineated and discussed in the guide that I showed you earlier, that I made reference, that you all have sitting in front of you. So each of these bullet points is referenced clearly and defined clearly in that guide. First of all is reflective journaling. Secondly, the end-of-course response papers. We'll be coming back to these and explain more. The Term 3 annotated bibliography, a capstone summary chapter. I should also add an introduction chapter to that, and other course projects, and a final presentation. Now, what's reflective journaling? Well, it's intended to create a reflective perspective, first of all. We don't want you to just go through the motions, so to speak, of accumulating all this data and information without thinking about it, without critiquing it, without analyzing it, without trying to figure out, well, does this stuff work? What's it mean to me? So what? Do I agree or disagree with the authors or the theorists? What are the assumptions that the theorists are making about people, about the world? Is that incongruence, or does that match up with what my view of the world and people are? So you want to create this reflective process throughout the program. Reflective journaling is one way of doing that. You can document your personal reactions to readings or to a class session, especially if you do it soon after the class session has ended, before you forget what some of those reactions are all about. It can help you create a framework for a response paper, which we'll be talking about in just a minute, but it becomes a helpful resource, if you will, that you can look back on to create some of your response paper content. And you can also use it to record insights that you might have had from other readings or other experiences. Maybe you attempted to apply an aspect of a theory or a concept in the workplace. What was the response? That sort of thing. So it's something that you've just completed the first course in the program. It's something that was a requirement for this first course. It is no longer a requirement for you in the program. And so you are going to decide whether you want to do it or not. But I think you'll hear in the comments in some of the other videotape that you may see this evening from students, as well as if you were to talk to other MSOL alumni, I think you'd be able to find some of them who would say, if asked the question, what would you recommend to a new MSOL student? And that one thing would be journal, because it does become a way of thinking back on stuff that otherwise might be lost. All right, what about a journal? Journals are not to be a reiteration of what happened in class. They're to be accounts of your reaction and response to course activities and readings, etc. It's really like establishing a dialogue with yourself about these concepts, and which ones you own or agree with, which ones you disown, and why. And it's a record of how the course issues relate to your work, if you've had the opportunity to apply these or not. Now, having said that, one of the major components of the ongoing development of the Integrated Leadership Project, which I'm going to call ILP from now on, is a response paper. A response paper is written after the completion of each course. It is a response to what happened in the class, in the course. And it's not just a sharing of emotional response, but it's really an analytical, critical evaluation of the theories and the experiences and the dialogue, etc., that may have taken place in the classroom, And what you are doing is, in essence, beginning as you work through each of the courses, you are in essence shaping your model of organizational leadership by determining at that point in time what concepts or ideas or theories do you think are really attractive and why they are. And what you'll begin to see is, as you work through courses such as the History and Theory of Leadership, which you just did, and Leadership and Communication, which will be coming next, and then Professional Development Part I, and then Ethics and Leadership, Leadership and Ethics, and then in the next term, Motivation and Research and Decision Making and so on. What you're going to be doing is looking at these different courses and seeing what components of these courses fit together and support your model of organizational leadership. And understand that this is not necessarily by a certain date you have to have the answer to this question. This is the process of developing a reflective, critical process of analyzing this stuff and trying to figure it out for yourself. Because we aren't prescribing for you a particular 1, 2, 3, 4 menu of what organizational leadership is. We are giving you exposure to not only what the theories of leadership are, but to the other domains of leadership and how they fit together. Now imagine, for instance, if you're talking about effective leadership, communication is part of leadership. And so you look at the leadership course, the communication course, as a course in communication with respect to leadership. You have to look at the course in ethics as a course about as a course in leadership with respect to ethics, because ethics is a significant component of leadership. So we have to understand ethics in the context of organizational leadership and how that part of that, or that domain of organizational leadership, fits into your model. The same way with motivation. If you remember Rost's definition of leadership, or Burns or Bass that you just studied, you know that motivation is a significant piece to that. And your view of motivation that comes out of that course has to influence your notion of what leadership is all about. So that's what you're doing. You're reflecting on those processes that are going on, and you're gradually building this model. It answers, the response paper answers both the what and the why questions regarding those key concepts. It's not just what things I'm interested in or attracted, but why. And it also is an opportunity to show how you are applying those concepts in the workplace and what experiences that you've had with them. Because ultimately you may evaluate and judge aspects of your model on the basis of the response that you've had in the workplace, the effectiveness of those concepts and so forth. Response papers are not just a reiteration of course content. It's not just this is what we studied and so forth and so on. But it's an examination or analysis of key concepts and theories that are shaping your conception of organizational leadership. That's the key. That's the key. And as you look at them all together, consider them as chapters in the story of your personal leadership growth and development during your MSOL experience. And by that I mean that conceptually, what has changed? What is changing? And why has that change taken place? Now, one of the other pieces that we're looking at in the ILP is what we call the annotated bibliographic review, or the annotated bibliographic